Welcome to I Drink Your Podcast.
Oh gosh, it's a real pleasure to be here. Thank you.
You leave me no choice. Here comes the smolder.
Wait, you like that?
No.
You don't like that?
No, I don't like that.
No, how about that? You like that?
A little better.
Bread makes you fat?
Does this count as annoying?
Just tell me what you want me to fuck!
Not you, and not you.
Okay, I think it's time to take off your clothes and jump me.
$1 million isn't cool. You know what's cool?
I drink your podcast. I drink it up!
Welcome back, everybody, to another fabulous episode of I Drink Your Podcast, or IDYP 2010. With me today, as always, is the lovely Emily.
Hi, everyone. I'm lovely.
And drunk.
And drunk. I thought we started recording a half hour ago, so I've been drinking for a bit.
And also with us today is one of our co-hosts, Dylan.
Hey, everybody. Great to be here. Happy New Year.
Yeah, you as well. Couple days.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, a couple days of what? Oh, a couple days of the new year. Wow.
I was more going with the fact of how that this is going to be out at the new year. So it's more kind of like a,
got it.
Hey, everybody. Happy New Year to y'all.
Yeah,
it's
time is weird.
2022. We made it.
See, teacher time right now. We're still on break, and it is teacher Emily getting drunk.
All right.
And being silly.
Fun times.
And talking movies. What movie did we watch, Emily?
And talking movies, we watched Love and Other Drugs, which actually isn't streaming on anything in the U.S., so you got to buy that shit. All right?
Don't waste
Don't
your
know if
money.
you want to.
No.
What? Ooh, we're going to talk.
Oh, my.
Oh,
okay.
we will.
Well, before we get to the movie, Dylan, what is in your glass this evening?
Well, getting over a little bit of a chest cold, sinus cold, so I've just been drinking hot tea all day, and so now I'm treating myself to a nice limoncello LaCroix, my usual drink of choice.
Okay. Okay, Emily, you got something a little more interesting?
Oh, definitely more interesting. I went with a love potion.
Oh.
We have a love story going on through this movie. It's literally in the title. But also, I didn't want to add other drugs to my drink. So because it's a potion, I felt like that in itself was kind of a drug. So.
Okay.
I don't know. I just felt like it. You know, Harry Potter fans out there, you have a potion. You kind of get drugged up on that potion. So, love potion.
Yeah, I avoided the love story angle. I went with the drug story part of it. So I have a
Nice.
liquid Prozac, which is gin, Dr. Pepper, and grenadine.
You know,
Intriguing.
I actually almost went with that because, again, easiest thing to look up on the internet.
Fuck you. The easiest thing would have been liquid Viagra. By the way, I scrolled past Love Potion to get to liquid Prozac. So
yeah, I'm sure you did.
Who's the basic bitch now?
I'm sure you did.
I did.
Wow. Sensing tension.
There's a lot of tension in the world,
Maybe
Dylan.
you guys do need some Prozac or some kind of a relaxing drug.
But Dylan, we are in a brand new season. This is our third episode of our new season. We're in 2010. We're so excited.
Ooh.
But you got to tell us, this is your first episode from 2010. What's something you're excited about as we move forward into a new year?
Oh, gosh. I'm trying to think here. You know, I think this was the first or the second year that I went to the Best Picture Showcase that Ben and I have regularly gone on, but this is before I knew Ben. But to get to talk about a lot of these Best Picture movies again, because I really thought this was a solid year for the Oscars. So I'm excited to discuss those movies and rewatch them.
Yeah, and we'll have you on for quite a few of them. So
Yeah.
exciting.
Yes, we will. And speaking of some of those Oscar-nominated movies, like we obviously don't know which ones are happening, but we've got 2021 wrapping up. We got to hear some of our favorite movies from 2021. Dylan, you got a favorite from this year so far?
Oh, boy. You know what? I told Ben before, asked him if I could have two, and I'm actually going to take one more. I got three.
Oh, stop.
I've got it into categories. One that I actually went to the theater to see. One that was in both the theater and streaming at the same time. and one that was just streaming. So my favorite one that I actually went out to the theater to see was Dune. It was the one movie I was probably the most excited for this year. It was consistently the one movie I said, that's the one I'm going to have to see in a theater.
Mm-hmm.
COVID or not, I need to see this in a theater, and I did, and it was fantastic. Number 2, which was streaming at the same time as in theaters, and also I would say kind of a guilty pleasure movie, was the James Wan classic Malignant that came out this year. It was
Shit.
It's a bonkers, absolutely bonkers, makes no sense at all movie, but for some reason I was like, somehow I enjoy this. It was beyond odd.
And what's the third one?
The Fear Street Trilogy that was on Netflix.
Oh,
this
yeah,
year.
you told us about that,
That
right?
was so good. It may not have been movie theater caliber type stuff, but I thought it was a cohesively well-told story that you could definitely see that they put a lot of heart and a lot of love into making it.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry to take up a ton of time there, but those are my
Fine.
3.
It's fun. We're happy to hear it. Ben, what about you?
First of all, what a stereotypically Dylan list that was of movies.
Very
I
horror-esque.
really appreciate that. Horror, sci-fi,
and
love
sci-fi.
it. Love those choices, Dylan. So because we do the Best Picture Showcase every year, Dylan and I intentionally go out of my way to not watch any of the ones that might be Oscar nominated. So like Dune was one that I went with Dylan to see in theaters, and I saw West Side Story, which I think we're going to hear from Emily about in a little bit. But my favorite movie of 2021 thus far is The Mitchells versus the Machines.
Oh, shit, yes.
I thought that movie was so much fun, and it's one that I continue to go back to and watch because it's just so creative. You got a queer protagonist. You've got the short attention span type comedy that's really popular right now with kids, and it just hit home with me, and I loved every minute of it. It's bright, colorful, and fun.
It is a fun one.
I've not heard of that movie.
It's on Netflix. It's a Netflix animated movie. Yep.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. It's real cute. You'll like it. I'm sure the kids will love it too.
I imagine they will.
Well, we recently did a short recording with Cinephiles, Ben and I did, just talking about some of our favorites from 2021. And I mostly talked about The Green Knight, which so fucking good. But I actually want to not talk about West Side Story, although Ben, yes, I loved it. It was phenomenal. But I think what I just saw in the last week was The Last Night in Soho, Edgar Wright's new movie, and I loved this movie. Holy fucking shit. It was terrifying and wonderfully shot, and the colors and the music and everything about it was phenomenal. And if you love Edgar Wright, if you love horror, this is definitely your shit.
Now, let me ask you this, Miss Emily. Would you say that movie would be a blind buy?
I don't know what that means.
Blind buy would be you didn't see it in the theater. You haven't seen it at all. Would you suggest if a person fits that thing like myself, would you just buy it sight unseen?
Oh, for me, yeah. I would
Okay.
100%. Like, just the poster alone and knowing it's Edgar Wright, I knew I wanted to see it.
Because I've considered that one, and what was the one with Chris Hemsworth that Drew Goddard did? Where it was like Chris Hemsworth, John Hamm.
Bad Times at the El Royale.
Yes. That was one too. Never got a chance to see it in the theater. Never got to watch it streaming. And I haven't seen it streaming since. So I'm kind of like, would this be one just to kind of go, just buy it?
Just buy it. 100% buy it, Dylan. You'll love it.
I think Emily recommending a horror movie tells you all you need to know about whether it's a blind buy or not, because Emily is not a horror movie person.
That is very true.
I'm really not. But literally, I love anything Edgar Wright anyway. I wasn't expecting it to be quite so terrifying, but it was. I had to pause it a couple times to get myself to breathe.
Yeah.
Which is saying something.
I will admit, I still have not seen Baby Driver. And part of that is just my, not hatred, but just my abhorrence of Kevin Spacey.
Mm-hmm.
It's still hard for me to get past all that stuff to kind of go, Yeah, I'll watch this movie.
I can get that.
Sure. Well, this week we watched a movie not starring Kevin Spacey, thankfully. Otherwise, Dylan wouldn't be here. We watched Love and Other Drugs, which was nominated for no Oscars, but it did get 2 Golden Globe nominations for acting in a musical comedy, which really means nothing because the Hollywood Foreign Press are just a bunch of starfuckers. So they basically just pick them based on the name. So that doesn't mean anything. This movie currently sits at 49% on Rotten Tomatoes. And in the interest of full disclosure, this was the last movie to make the cut for this year as I was coming up with our movie list.
Yeah, I was surprised you kept this one in there, honestly.
I think if this is one I had seen before, it would not have made it. But because I hadn't seen it, it made the cut.
Hey, Lisa.
Her name's not Lisa.
I know, but if every time I say, hey, Lisa, she'll think that I dated a girl who looked just like her. She'll develop this unconscious need to win my approval, and from then on, it's cake.
Damn.
Why would you want to be a pharmaceutical rep?
That pays over $100,000 a year, that's why.
Hello, ladies.
Hello, gorgeous. Oh, wait. Yep, there's another one.
If the patient asks, you're an intern. Hi, I'm Dr. Knight.
And who are you?
Jamie Randall, intern.
Well, let's have a look.
You're a drunk rap! You let me take my shirt off!
This movie is directed by Edward Zwick, who is a director-producer of such laugh riot movies as Glory, Legends of the Fall, Courage Under Fire, The Siege, The Last Samurai, and the laugh-a-minute movie Blood Diamond.
You know, I don't think I've seen any of those.
They are all just super funny.
Yep.
I'm sure.
This guy is a master of comedy. There's so obvious why you give him this romantic comedy movie. Starring in this movie is my boy, Jake Gyllenhaal. He got his start in City Slickers before gaining notoriety in October Sky, Donnie Darko, and one of my personal guilty pleasures, Bubble Boy. But he was also nominated for an Oscar in Brokeback Mountain and was also great in movies like Jarhead, Zodiac, and the 2009 movie Brothers.
Which, oddly enough, that was my last episode with Zodiac, so I don't know if we're starting a pattern here with Jake Gyllenhaal joints.
We could. I don't think he's in many other 2010 movies, and since we're not doing Prince of Persia.
Oh, I love that movie. God damn it.
I know you do. It's not too late. Do you want to make this a Prince of Persia episode?
No, I don't, because I actually kind of want to talk about this movie.
Okay, well.
All right.
Also in this movie is Anne Hathaway, who started her career in family-friendly fare like The Princess Diaries and Ella Enchanted, then appeared as Gyllenhaal's wife in Brokeback Mountain, before moving on to lighter rom-com fare like Devil Wears Prada and Bride Wars.
Weird.
Well, what's really weird is that this next person showed up in this movie because I was not expecting this.
No one was expecting this.
Josh Gad is in this movie. And Josh Gad got his start doing mostly TV and appearing in a Broadway musical that is very close to mine and Emily's hearts. He was William Barfay in 25th Putnam County Spelling Bee.
Of course he was. That makes
Absolutely.
Everything about that makes sense.
Yeah. But he was also in the movie 21 and The Rocker before becoming a Daily Show correspondent in 2009.
Mm-hmm. I believe, wasn't he also in Book of Mormon? Wasn't he in the
original
original
The Book of Mormon wasn't until 2012.
Ah, okay.
So
okay.
That was after this, which is why I didn't bring it up.
Sorry.
But yes, he was the first person on Broadway to be the Elder Cunningham role in Book of Mormon.
Yes.
And then this movie also features a host of great character actors, Oliver Platt, Judy Greer, Hank Azaria, Jill Clayburgh, and George Segal.
All wasted.
I thought Hank Azaria had some good stuff to work with.
Okay.
Not necessarily Hank Azaria type stuff, but he was in this movie a fair amount.
We'll get there. We'll get there.
Okay.
Ben, you had never seen this before, but weirdly enough, I had seen this before.
Yeah.
And I gave you last episode 3 hints of what this movie is about. Do you want to give us your synopsis based off of those?
Yeah, so the 3 hints you gave me were the 90s, sexy scenes, and Prozac. So I started thinking, what are the 90s remembered for? And the 3 things that everyone remembers from the 90s are the fall of the Berlin Wall, the OJ trial, and tennis. The 3 biggies. So
okay.
I'm pretty sure that this movie was going to be set on New Year's Eve, 1999, in a hotel room shared by Steffi Graf and Andre Agassi, two of tennis' hottest stars of the 90s. And they're just going to town on each other, okay? And their sex is mind-blowing as they fuck kind of like they're playing tennis. Like Andre will like serve it up, and then Steffi will like hit it back. And then, you know, he runs to the other side of the court and hits it back. And then she stretches and hits it back. And then he hits a little drop shot, and there's no way she's going to be able to get it, but she gets it. And then Andre comes and slams it home. So kind of like tennis.
Are they doing all that like grunting and screaming that they do in tennis?
She is. He is more subdued, as you'd expect. Yeah. But this movie will also feature many flashbacks to actual tennis matches as we peel back the layers of their careers and their developing Prozac addictions. So by this time, their addictions are like out of control, and they're like snorting Prozac off each other's asses, and they're rubbing it on their gums, and they're cooking it in a spoon before injecting it to the tips of their genitals. So like, this movie's like Train Spotting, if Train Spotting had like an indefensible amount of tennis. So that is Love and Other Drugs.
Wow, Ben.
That's
not
interesting.
what you got at all.
Yeah.
Here is the back of the DVD cover. Here we go. Maggie, played by Anne Hathaway, is an alluring free spirit who won't let anyone or anything tie her down. But she meets her match in Jamie, played by Jake Gyllenhaal, whose relentless and near infallible charm serves him well with the ladies and in the cutthroat world of pharmaceutical sales. Maggie and Jamie's evolving relationship takes them both by surprise as they find themselves under the influence of the ultimate drug. Dun, 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 love.
Mm-hmm. Okay. That synopsis was lacking in tennis, first of all. Also, that synopsis makes it sound like Maggie is the main character of this movie and not Jake Gyllenhaal.
It does, and also makes it seem like it's a normal romantic comedy.
That's true, which this is not, is it?
No, it's not. Like, the funny thing is it's kind of based on a book, but it's not actually based on a book.
Well, yeah, it's adapted from a book.
Right, it's a story within it that is from a book all about pharmaceutical sales all the way up to Viagra and Pfizer. And then the rest of it is just made up.
Yeah, so like the book was written by a guy named Jamie Reedy. It's called Hard Sell. And even the Jamies within the stories aren't even similar to each other. Like, all they basically took was the template of a guy who sells pharmaceutical drugs and starts to sell Viagra and was like, let's build a romantic comedy around that. And the book focuses a lot more on the schmoozing with doctors and the competition between drug companies, which this movie kind of touches on. But all of the romance stuff, like, that's not in the books at all. And he's not a womanizer or anything in the book.
Right. And I think it's even interesting to call it a romantic comedy. Like we mentioned at the end of the synopsis, like, what do you define this as? It has so many tonal shifts within it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know I said to Ben after I finished watching it, or we both finished, we kind of spoke back and forth a little bit. And I just said this movie felt like they took an American Pie movie, you know, kind of like a raunchy sex comedy, and then took a drama and mashed them together. Because I felt like the tones, when they were trying to be like really, really funny, it was just kind of like, this just doesn't feel right with this style of movie that this is supposed to be.
I haven't seen an American Pie movie, so I don't know, but I feel like it's not quite as raunchy. And from what I
Well, there was one scene in particular that I was just like, okay, this is like an American Pie movie right here.
Okay.
The Josh Gad character definitely has shades of that type of naughties type sex comedy humor.
Okay.
In it, so the Josh Gad character very much feels like that. The rest of the movie, I mean, if you're going in thinking this is American Pie, like, you're going to be sorely disappointed because this movie's not fun with its comedy. It's all very kind of mean-spirited with the comedy and kind of just, I don't know. This movie did not hit me in the way that I think the director intended it to hit people. Because I wouldn't even classify this as a comedy. This is a drama with one funny character in it.
Yes.
Who's attempting comedy, and that's Josh Gad.
Yeah, I would 100% say that it's a drama, but I do think that the elements of the humor, if you just get rid of the Josh Gad character throughout all of it, I do think that there are some really good comedy elements. And you say they're mean-spirited, but like for me, watching this woman like berate this man who has just constantly had an easy life with women and is schmoozing doctors and women and is like constantly just a shitty person, that was funny and ironic to me. And seeing the families argue with each other over really stupid things and hearing them talk over each other, that was really funny to me. But I don't know, maybe I'm just a mean person.
I mean, a lot of the comedy comes from the situations they're in and not the script, which I don't think does a good service of like injecting things with jokes or humor. I think it's a lot of just the humor's in the setup of, oh, this guy saw her boob when he wasn't supposed to be in the doctor's office and now she's mad at him. Like it just, that's what I mean by mean-spirited. Like it's a lot of the situations that were set up are like, they're just not things that are lighthearted. Like it had a very dark center to this movie.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And in that way, it made it like you can maybe call it a black comedy, but even then it's a stretch.
Yeah, it's funny you bring up that moment in the movie where Jamie is pretending to be an intern essentially so he can kind of listen in on this woman who ends up being Maggie, who has Parkinson's. You know, that's the big reveal. She has early onset Parkinson's. And it's funny you bring that up as like set up for humor. I guess I didn't see it that way at all. I saw it as more of this is this awful human set up as just like this shit asshole and she is going to use him for sex. So maybe that's my own perspective as a woman. That was kind of in my horny stages when I first watched this, I think.
I would say that I can definitely see what you're saying there, Emily. But I also see what Ben's saying as well, and I felt the same way that Ben was feeling.
Saying you can see both sides.
No, that's not a cop-out. I see both sides. But I agree more with Ben than I do with you. It felt to me like the writers or whoever were going, oh, this scene's just going to be so funny because it's going to be oddly uncomfortable and it's just going to be hilarious. It's going to be so funny. And that's just so comes across as not.
Because I felt like the writers weren't going for comedy. That was just like my whole time. The only part that I felt was comedy where people were specifically writing it to be funny rather than like real life scenario of this is how you'll probably feel. That's just kind of how I interpret it. And I just find it interesting to hear your perspective.
Then there's something about Jake Gyllenhaal's performance in that scene because the faces he's making is trying to make it seem like it's a comedy in the way that he's reacting to what's going on. So maybe it's not in the writing, but there's definitely something in the way that scene was directed that is saying this is supposed to be funny here, seeing the position that he has found himself in.
Okay.
Yeah. That's what kind of you were when I was referencing like an American Pie style movie, is it kind of felt like they were just putting situations that were meant to be funny. Like it wasn't written in the script to be funny, but the director was like, okay, how are we going to make this scene humorous? Or they had rewrites and they were like, okay, we got to have something in here that's a funny situation. And I was like, it doesn't, why is this here? This isn't that style of movie, in my opinion.
That scene in particular where him and Maggie meet and then she confronts him in the parking lot, like,
and hits him in the face.
Yeah, a typical rom-com has like a meet cute, and this like went in the very opposite direction of that, where they don't like each other. They have no reason to like each other. I mean, he should like her because did you see her? She looked great in this movie. Oh, come on, Emily, get out of here.
I've never really liked Anne Hathaway.
This is my peak Anne Hathaway.
Oh, I know it is.
Okay. But like Maggie has no reason to be interested in him other than we find out is she wants sex.
Yeah.
Because this movie, if it's anything, is horny as hell.
Yeah. And I love that about it.
What do you love about that?
How many movies are out there where it's just like a woman is horny all the time and it's okay? this was my first experience with that. It like acknowledged the fact that me as a woman, it's okay for me to be horny and to have sex. And like, obviously there's other underlying layers within the movie that cause drama, but like, it was a moment of this is okay to just have sex and be okay with that and then move on and not have an emotional attachment to someone.
Yeah, I would agree with what Emily, because it is kind of like that whole I know this is before like Me Too and that kind of stuff, but it is kind of showing that yes, a woman can be this, you know, and also it does kind of flip the script on the romantic comedy type thing of the guy always wanting to get some type of thing. And this time it was, no, the woman.
Both of them.
The woman and both of them were wanting it. But also Jake Gyllenhaal's character was always kind of the person using a woman for, you know, sexual gratification, or always the one that always did the conquering, so to speak, while it was flipped on him with Anne Hathaway's character. I thought that it was now she was using him instead of him using her.
Yeah, and I felt like this movie kind of started the whole no strings attached, friends with benefits sort of phase, where, although this is a little bit more dramatic rather than romantic comedy, because then that spins off into romantic comedy land.
Emily, I'm going to throw something at you, and I don't know if I believe it or not, but I want to hear your opinion on this.
Okay.
So there's something about Anne Hathaway's horniness, though, that feels like it's embedded in the fact that she's a broken person because of the Parkinson's.
Well, actually, found this out. The drugs that she's on, weirdly enough, are shown to have side effects of extreme hypersexuality.
Really?
Sorry, hypersexualization. Yeah. Well, I'm drunk. And so I thought that was like an interesting background that I looked into as I was reading some of the like extra trivia and just like about the different drugs and like what Parkinson's was, because I don't know anyone with Parkinson's, and I wanted to see like how did they do their diligence as a crew and as actors to make sure that they're respecting people with this horrible disease. And, you know, like that brought me down a really cool rabbit hole of having this woman who does have Parkinson's, a famous actress who actually just died this year. She was in it, and she was one of the people that was on stage during the convention. And I was like, this is super fucking cool. But I don't know. I think that I don't remember what you said.
I mean, I guess my question was, does that ruin it for you that this character, who is your introduction to women with sexual agency, is really doing it because of she's drug-addled or because she feels like she's broken because of the disease she has? Does that diminish it at all?
It actually doesn't. And it's partially because I think me, when I first watched this movie, and even now, I myself feel like I'm broken. And maybe that is part of how I cope, is I use sex to help cope. But I feel a lot of times with movies like this, you don't always see a woman using her strength and using like whatever skill set she has to do something that makes her somewhat happier to fill that brokenness. And I know that sounds really depressing and everything, but that's just reality for me. That was something that really hit deep for me because, you know, I'm on SSRIs and I'm super depressed and anxious all the time, and I have trauma. So it's nothing like Parkinson's, but it definitely hit home.
So I wish Wesley were here today, is how I'm going to start this next part. Because one of Wesley's big complaints is that in romantic comedies, it's all boils down to lack of communication as the central like issue in the relationship. And I feel like this movie does something totally different with it, where they almost over communicate to the point of detriment to their relationship.
True. They do talk over each other quite a bit.
Okay.
But I think that we can't label it as a romantic comedy. I think that was our conversation in the beginning. And so if it was a typical romantic comedy, yes, I would say that the crutch is we have lack of communication. But the bigger problem with their relationship is that Jamie and Maggie, as they're falling in love with each other, Maggie is the one pulling away because she doesn't want to be dependent on anyone, because she knows what this disease is going to be capable of and she knows what's going to happen, and she's scared of losing Jamie, versus Jamie's like, nah, I'm all in. And then we get to my favorite scene of all time in this movie, which is at the convention. And we can talk about that in the good if you want, but
yeah, let's save that.
It doesn't seem necessary to have that crutch, especially because it's not a romantic comedy, but because there is a bigger piece that's there for them to focus on.
I wrote down near the time of their breakup, did she break up with him because she thinks she's holding him back, or because he thinks she's holding him back?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't think I have an answer for that.
I kind of think it was more oh God, that's kind of interesting. I'm remembering back to that unconvention scene where and I think she sounded much more energized, and I think she was breaking up with him because maybe she perhaps had inspiration from it and kind of going, I can do this by myself, and I don't need him, or it is the whole holding, you're just going to hold me back from living out my life because we're going to make this all about my Parkinson's and not about living our lives to the fullest. And I don't want that. I want to just live my life how I can live my life just like these people are every single day until I can't do it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Damn you, Dylan. I gave you 2 options. You took option 3.
I know, I heard that too, and I was like, oh, Ben's going to be pissed.
Sorry, I got to throw that out at it, but hey, different perspectives, baby.
Ben, did you end up landing on something, though?
I didn't, but if I had to say which way I'm leaning, I think she really breaks up with him because she thinks he thinks she's holding him back. After this convention, he kind of sees the weight of this Parkinson's and what this disease does, and he thinks she needs to fix her, but she doesn't need to be, or feel she need to be fixed. So if he's thinking that, then she's going to break away because she doesn't want him thinking that about her.
Yeah, because it was that whole montage of him getting frustrated trying to find new doctors and to find new treatments, and she was getting overwhelmed and exhausted, seeing him work himself to the bone trying to fix her.
But also remember kind of what she said.
Heavy shit.
What she said kind of in that scene where they're breaking up outside of the hospital, for that second breakup. And she kind of did say what I was kind of saying just now, which was, this disease is not my life, and I don't want it to be my life. And so she was like, that's why this relationship's not going to work, because you've become obsessed with healing me, and I don't want that for either of us.
Yeah, I can see that. Well, 2/3 of this movie is the romance we've talked about, and the other third is a portrayal of how our healthcare system works.
Right.
Based on what you saw presented in this movie, is this movie pro-pharma, anti-pharma, or do you feel it's a pretty balanced portrayal?
Oh, it's definitely anti-pharma. It really is. It shows how they bribe people. It shows how, especially in that beginning montage of how, they show Jamie's a shit person. And yes, he's likable and charming because, your protagonists have to have some sort of likable qualities. But he really is just a villain. And he's competing with this other guy who, I can't remember his name, but what's the other drug? Not Zoloft, it's the other one, Prozac?
Yeah,
Prozac.
Yeah. So it's the Prozac guy, and he's competing with him. And during the 6-week boot camp, the woman that's in charge of it that Jamie ends up sleeping with is just such an asshole. And they're all assholes to each other. And you can see how they're really pushy and trying to just make money. And so I feel like it's completely anti-pharma, and I really liked that about it.
Go ahead, Dylan.
Hate to disagree with you on this one, Miss Emily.
No, always disagree with me, Dylan. It's fun.
I'm sorry. Being a salesman, that's your job, is to sell. So your job is to be pushy. to kind of always sell that, to make the upsell. If you can sell
I disagree.
then you upsell. Oh, how many jobs have you worked? How many jobs have you worked in selling?
In sales, I have my own business.
Oh.
So sales is finding a need and filling it. It's not being pushy. It's helping someone figure out what need they actually have and helping them fill that need. It's a service.
Okay, and in that way, I do think that this movie does have a bit of a pro-pharma approach because...
Okay, fine, because he's like, oh, but Zoloft is better and has less side effects. Rah, rah, rah.
No, I was going to say that we see the drugs actually help people. We see the homeless man who gets the samples of Prozac and all of a sudden his life turns around. So, like, maybe, yes, it's anti-pharma sales, but it's definitely pro-pharma drugs.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. Well, we all know that a lot of the issues with people in our world comes down to mental health. And so, yes, I know drugs are beneficial, but they can also like help get people just going to get to that next step. Right. So like, yeah, I guess so.
Well, now let me ask this question. Do you think your opinion is the same or different knowing what we know now about Big Pharma compared to when this came out 10 years ago?
Oh, I saw it 10 years ago.
And did you have the same opinion about Jake Gyllenhaal's character?
But I've always been super liberal, so.
Oh, I am
don't
too.
know if that's saying anything.
I'm super liberal too, but it's really only been the last few years, I would say, that the general public is much more aware of how and that was one of my notes about this, was kind of hard to watch a movie where a drug rep is your lead character, knowing all we know about the opioid epidemic and everything that's been going on in the last few years. That was what started by Big Pharma that lied to the government and nobody paid for it. Nobody got in trouble for it, you know, and made the movie kind of hard to watch for me, because I was just like, yeah, this guy's a sleazy piece of garbage.
Yeah, the thing that made it difficult for me is seeing the relationship between the doctors and the pharma sales guys, and how flippantly the doctor can kind of sway from one drug to another, not based on what's best for the patient, but based on who's in his ear and giving him the best perks.
Yes.
So that's the part of it that, after watching this, like, I have much lower opinion of our healthcare system than I did before, and I didn't have a very high opinion of it in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
Also, do doctors talk about their patients' tits like that? Like, that weirded me out when Hank Azaria was talking to somebody about Maggie's breasts. And it's like, is that shouldn't be right?
Probably shouldn't, but I'm sure there are people like that, especially in 96 when this movie was like not set. Thank you. I could definitely see that happening.
That could be a HIPAA violation, because you're talking about a patient outside of your normal business.
Yeah, but you guys, think about the last even 5 years of all the things that have been revealed. I'm on a subreddit, 2X chromosomes, you're amazing. And there are all these women that talk about how they are being treated by men even to this day and how doctors treat them. It is insane. Like some of the stories that I'm hearing of really sexist and not listening to women and not listening to their patients about what they need, you know? And so like for me, it's a normal part of my life where I'm like, yeah, I could definitely believe some guy doctor is talking about my tits, you know? Like I've never had a guy doctor on purpose because I don't feel safe like that way.
Just burn the whole fucking thing down. We need to start over. Like this is bullshit.
I've established a running pattern with me on these episodes is I always tend to talk about my mother. And that's...
Where is this going to go?
Because, and here's why. My mom was a nurse for like 40 years. And she can honestly, she's told me many times, I've asked her about the drug reps and all this stuff that come in. And yeah, she said they were some of the worst. But I don't know if it was until after Obamacare was passed, or even if it was before, but they the hospital got really strict and tight that if you were even seen using like a pen that said Pfizer or any big pharma name on it, that could actually be grounds for termination, because that would be seen as bribery to the medical staff, that they gave you a pen. So I don't know if that was post or pre-Obamacare that they got really tight on that, but that is something that they got really, really strict on.
Interesting.
With nurses and doctors.
I think it's a missed opportunity that we're not having you on in a couple weeks to do the movie Mother.
Oh, that no.
You could have had a lot of insight and had a genuine reason to talk about her. Emily, did you wrote a letter to somebody today, didn't you?
I did. I couldn't bottle up my emotions. I had to write a letter to someone.
Don't bottle them up.
All right.
Let them out.
So I'm writing a letter to our beautiful director. Ready?
Oh, yeah.
Dear Edward Zwick, after seeing beautiful people everywhere in film constantly having tons and tons of sex and easily banging gorgeous people all over the place, it was a pleasant surprise seeing Josh Gad getting it on your movie. However, even though we always appreciate seeing average people fucking people in movies, especially since it's less common, after watching Frozen 1,000 times with my children, we probably didn't need to see everything. So thank you so very much for showing us Olaf's butt. That was incredibly unnecessary and scarring for all of us dads. From the average American dad who loves Frozen.
There are many of us. Join our club.
Too much Olaf man-ass.
It was a lot.
It was a lot.
Well, Josh Gad's got a lot back there.
He did. I was just like, whoa, that's Olaf.
Let's get to the good, bad, and weird of this movie and start off with who won this movie, Emily?
I mean, it's gotta be Anne Hathaway's character and Jake Gyllenhaal's character because, oh my God, the sex was fun. Watching them fuck, that was a fun time. Like, by far one of my favorite scenes is seeing them both laying down Jake Gyllenhaal's character on top of Anne Hathaway's character, and like both of them clothes strewn everywhere. The door's still open. The keys are in the door. They just had an insane quickie that was fueled on passion and lust, and then they separate ways, and it's fine. Like, oh, so horny. Wonderful. Loved it.
They do have a lot of chemistry together, too.
Yeah.
They do. Which does not happen in Brokeback Mountain.
Well, for character reasons.
Obvious reasons.
Dylan, did you have a winner of this movie?
You know, I'm probably just going to agree with Emily on that the performances by our two lead actors is probably your best thing you're getting out of the movie.
All performances or just the sexual performances?
I would just say the all-around for all of it for the two leads.
Yeah.
Well, I have a different winner.
Who won?
I think the winner of this movie is the music supervisor. Because kicking us off with the movie with two princes to set us firmly in the mid-90s was a great choice. Ending the movie with Fidelity by Regina Spektor.
Oh, I love it. Song.
And then you got like the perfect cringy use of Macarena, where they're all awkwardly doing the Macarena at that convention. Like, amazing. A well-respected man by the Kinks. Heaven is a Place on Earth. Like, great music choices in this movie. Way to go, music
Their
supervisor.
needle drops were really great.
Yes.
I forgot about that. They were really awesome.
So let's talk about the good. What are the things you liked in this movie?
Well, I already talked about how much I actually liked the dialogue. I know that both of you kind of talked about how the dialogue and the writing seemed to focus on like situations rather than just like the character. But I actually felt like the character got them into situations. And so like having the family dinner and having everyone talking over each other, I felt like it really showed a lot with their character. I also loved Big Pharma being assholes, especially showing the training montage with the Macarena, like, and the stupid matches, and they're trying to talk as fast as they possibly can to get all of the information.
Yep.
You know, I really liked that. I thought it was really good.
I really enjoyed the brotherly dynamic between Jake and Josh.
Yes.
Particularly the scene when Jamie's on the phone with Maggie for the first time and the brother's in the background just like making noise and making jokes. And then they're like fighting with each other. Like,
is that how you feel with your brothers sometimes?
That is absolutely how I feel with my brothers sometimes. Even Wesley or Matt, like that's how we like poke at each other. So very, very good.
Dylan, did you like anything?
I did. There are, Ben, quick story. Ben came over to my house one day and we watched all the Matrix movies. And the first words that came out of his mouth were not hello. He goes, Dylan, is there any movie that you don't like? Because I was like, is this supposed to be insulting or what? But in the end, it became that I'm an optimistic movie watcher where I really do look for, even if it's a movie I didn't really care for, like this movie, I didn't really care for it, but I can find things that I liked. And some of the things I liked is the casting was really good. I am a huge fan of Judy Greer and Oliver Platt. I love Oliver Platt. I think he always puts his all into everything he does, honestly. So I love the character actors. I thought they did a great job with the casting. And, you got two of the young, hip, hot actors that are pushing box office to do this movie. Now, I don't know if this was made by the same studio or group that did Brokeback Mountain, and this was part of the deal, was you do this movie, then you do this movie. It's probably not.
No. Not 5 years apart. They're not going to do that.
Okay. That's my bad. But no, I thought, good casting all around. No great movie or good movie for that matter can be built on just two actors alone. It takes an entire cast to make it at least tolerable. And this casting made it tolerable.
I will also say that I appreciated the look of this movie and the camera work. Like, not usually in rom-coms do you look at something and be like, oh, that's a really like pretty visual frame or a really pretty like camera movement. But this one did have some good, competent camera work and cinematography behind it, which I appreciated greatly.
No, it was well done. It wasn't just like shit,
You could tell that this movie was not a typical rom-com where it's just like, okay, we got to get something out. We just got to get something out real fast. It doesn't matter. Get some no-namer to direct it. They actually had good director. I don't know who wrote the script and what else this other person or people had written before, but you could tell that they actually put some effort into making a decent rom-com, if you can call that, or even just a decent drama.
And I did want to bring up the scene I kind of hinted at before, when Jamie is at the unconvention where all of the people talking about their Parkinson's disease and their, but all of them are really bonding over that, and seeing Maggie's face just light up. It was hard, but also it felt good having that scene. But when Jamie talks to the husband of a woman who's in stage 4 Parkinson's, that was fucking heartbreaking and probably one of my favorite scenes because it put the stakes right out there. Even though Jamie we've known to be this asshole, it seems like this easy escape. And honestly, I wouldn't have blamed him leaving, And so I felt like having that scene in there just broke my fucking heart.
Yeah. Emily, I love you. That was a great scene. You picked my favorite scene. That was my favorite as well. I love in movies when they use real people to kind of tell the story, especially when it's about something like a disease. Like, representation matters, and it was really important to see people who actually have Parkinson's in this movie and getting the screen time. And in addition to that, you talk about seeing Maggie's face, realizing you aren't alone in your struggles is a universal thing, and that can be applied to anything. It's not just Parkinson's related. So like that connected with me wholeheartedly. And then you called out him talking to the guy. Like, I wrote down in all caps after the line, "I love my wife, but I wouldn't do it over again." I just wrote down, God damn, because, oh my God, the bluntness, but it just hit home and it put everything into perspective just immediately with a quick line. Just a great scene.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really cool seeing, her name is Lucy Raukis, I think, or Rousis. She was a Denver actress who had Parkinson's, and she was the woman with the short black hair that was on the stage talking.
Okay.
And she like literally had Parkinson's and was a part of this movie, which is so cool to have her be a part of that. And it's just so sad that she just recently died this year.
Quick pivot now to my favorite lines in the movie, which all belong to Josh Gad.
Yes.
What do you say we blow this joint and then each other? Is definitely one that's going in my arsenal. What a great line that is.
Yeah, you definitely will need that.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was my one laugh in the movie. Honestly, that made me really kind of
oh, come on.
Yeah, that's pretty funny.
I'd be more comfortable in the back of a Hot Wheels.
Oh no, I texted you and said that was that was the second one. That was the second one that made me kind of laugh. So I was like, okay, the Hot Wheels line's pretty good too.
Well, let's go to the bad now. Dylan, as someone who this movie didn't fully resonate with, what was something bad about this movie?
Well, I'll give you the example that I was going to say as I've been describing the whole kind of American Pie type scene was when he takes the Viagra. And he has the threesome, and then, he has a side effect. That, to me, and from there on in, when he, like, goes to the bathroom, and, like, he smacks it, and he's like, ah! You know, and...
I mean, I laughed, but...
But then when he's the scene with he and Josh Gad in the car, and Josh Gad accidentally keeps hitting his boner, blah, 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 blah. That, to me, just felt like, okay, this is American Pie. This is a scene from, like, American Pie 5.
Yeah, the scene that I thought you were going to talk about when it came to American Pie is actually my weird, or one of my weirds. It's the scene where Josh Gad is masturbating to his brother's sex tape.
Oh my God, right?
And then the conversation between them afterwards, that was just too gross for the tone of this movie, and it didn't fit for me.
It's weird you bring up tone, because that's my bad. I felt like the tone shifts were really outrageous and unnecessary, and I think that kind of lumps in with that whole American Pie feel, where we are going romantic comedy, we are going drama, we are going to like this weird, just pure American Pie comedy. And it doesn't quite know what it wants to be, because it's also having this commentary on like a bigger idea about healthcare. You know, they even drive all the way to Canada with all of these older people that need prescriptions, and they need cheaper drugs to survive and to live their life. And so the tone shifts so quickly, and I don't think it really knows what it wants to be. And I feel like there is a good movie in here. It just has too much trying to make it more of an every person's movie instead of just like letting it be what it is.
Yes, and there's one specific tone shift that I'm going to call out, and they're playing a Fatboy Slim song. And then all of a sudden it goes into like this sad romantic music where people are just like,
Yes.
And first of all, that music's terrible. They should cut it out of every single scene it's in, with the person just like humming and like it's bad. The tone shift, awful. Mm-hmm. And Emily, you talked about how like this movie tried to be too many things to too many people, and I think you probably would have liked this movie if it was more focused on just Maggie and Jake, and I probably would have liked it too. But what I really wanted to see is a satirical take on pharmaceuticals. Like what you see in Thank You for Smoking.
Yeah, no, Ben, I'm actually all for that. Like, I loved that part of the movie, and I also loved the romantic drama that was happening too. But I felt like they were two movies thrown in with some sprinkling of American Pie, like Dylan brought up. And yes, you can have humor in any aspects of what movie you're trying to create, but they needed some revisions, and they needed some perspective on how they wanted this movie to be, I guess, at the end. And
honestly, you know, this, from what you're describing, I don't know much about the book, but how you're it sounds almost kind of like it's a pseudo biography on what it's like to be a drug sales rep.
Yep.
Well, we already had a movie made in 2004 that was a book based on nothing, but was written to be a through-line story, and that was Mean Girls in 2004 because that was based off a book, which was about the studies of like girls in middle school.
Mm-hmm.
It was something like, and it was something and Queen Bees, and Tina Fey wrote that, and that was a great example of taking something that was a text that really didn't have a through line story, and now we've had a lot more movies like that, like The Big Short, Vice, Thank You for Smoking, are movies that are all based in an area that had no clear story, or based on a book that they developed a clear through line that worked.
Mm-hmm.
And they could have done it with this movie. They really could have. And it probably would have done better if it was made now, given the pharmaceutical issues we're dealing with right now.
Yeah, this actually would have been a really good reboot, like in the next few years, like to rewrite it and to change it up a bit. Like, I think it would do really, really well right now.
See, I don't even think you need to reboot it, though. Like, Love and Other Drugs is not the title of the book. Just do a different adaptation of the same book and take it in that direction. Like, it doesn't have to have anything to do with this movie or what we saw, other than the main character's name would be Jamie. Yeah. How about some weird? Emily?
Just generally, Josh Gad's character, like, I liked him. I did. And I loved, like you said, the brotherly relationship that he had. It just, you're right, Dylan. It was too much.
Mm-hmm.
And it took away from the movie. And so there were times where I'd go, wait, what? What is happening right now? Why is this here? Like, there were moments when it was good. For example, when Maggie comes in with the trench coat and she takes it off and she's naked and he's like, I don't have my glasses. And he turns away and he pretends to introduce himself, like facing the couch. But then there's the times, like Ben said, where he's masturbating to his brother and his brother's girlfriend fucking.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay.
I hate to say, I like the after of that scene when Jake Gyllenhaal grabs the tape and chases him into the room, and you just see his shadow beating the living piss out of his brother with a VHS tape.
It's the brotherly relationship. It's like the actual relationship and the actual reactions that they would have as brothers, and that's like where the fundamental part is. But everything else is shit.
Mm-hmm.
My weird is related to the sex tape, and I'm right now looking at Dylan's camera, and it's super pixelated, but somehow this 1996 camera had crystal clear footage of them having sex. And then they tried to do like this awkward post effect on it to make it look crappy, but all it did was make it look like frames were being skipped and deleted within the picture to like make it look like it's choppy. But the picture was still crystal clear. Like, it's not hard to throw a grainy like Instagram filter over that shit and just do that. Like, it was just weird to me that it looked that good.
Good point.
Let's wrap this thing up. Put a cork in this shit. Emily, final thoughts on this movie?
This movie is a fun movie to watch on a day when you just want to watch a dumb movie. I think that honestly, there are really wonderful aspects in it. I think that it's not going to be a favorite movie of mine, but it's one that I'd put on and still enjoy in the next few years.
Yeah, I can see why someone would like this movie, even though I don't like this movie. Like, there are a lot of aspects of it where I'm like, I appreciate what's going on here. I kind of like what you're doing here. But ultimately, the tonal shifts, some of the choices that were made, the disparate storylines, it just didn't work for me. So, yeah, Dylan?
Yeah, I'm kind of going to piggyback on Ben with that one, is that, yeah, I can totally see why someone would really, really like this movie. But for me, just not my cup of tea. Too oddly, again, shifty with the script. It felt like it was two stories put into one story. That just didn't make a whole lot of sense to me.
I understand, but also you're wrong.
What's your favorite idea? Mine is being creative.
How do you get the idea?
I just try to think creatively.
Emily, let's do some Twitslight.
Yeah, let's do it. Okay, guys, you ready for this? This is a good time. Number 1. Love is compared to a drug, and it's always compared to a drug, but it has a lot of other metaphors, right? It's like love is like a blah, right? I want you to use a new metaphor to fill in the blank for a different movie. And this movie is called Love and Other Blank. So fill in the blank for me and tell me a little brief sentence about what it's about.
I'm going to go with Love and Other Species. I'm going to have my movie be just bestiality focused and just about the love that can exist between a man and a horse or some other animal that
want to go with
is
horse.
Attractive. But I specifically want horses because horses are majestic creatures. And every time a horse shows up in a movie, that movie's good.
Love and Other Species.
You know, I can't compete with what he's spitting out there. That's a little too. I am so sorry.
If it helps,
I got nothing.
the first thing that came to my mind was Love and Other Tigers, and I don't even know what that means.
What? That's no different from what I said.
I know, right? Okay, number two, here we go. So speaking of that tape that Josh Gad's character was masturbating to.
Oh, yeah.
What was on that tape that the brother was masturbating to that was more disturbing than his brother having sex?
The only thing that comes to my mind is thinking of the classic TV show, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, where when Dennis's sex tapes that he makes, and all it is as he describes it, is just balls and ass, and that's it.
Okay.
I thought you were going to for sure say Frank coming out of the couch on repeat.
Oh, God.
No, that he's just jerking it to, Jake
Balls
Gyllenhaal's
and
balls and ass.
All right. Ben?
I think it's a bootleg copy of Heartbreak Kid.
Oh, stop.
Specifically, the post-credit scene with the donkey.
Oh,
Shout out to
God, I hate
Wesley.
you. You're never going to let him forget that.
Nope.
All right, last one's a little tough. So you can cut this if you want. But number 3, we'll see how it goes. So I looked this up. The average time for a match to burn all the way out is 8 seconds. So you remember when Jake Gyllenhaal's character was holding the match and he was talking as fast as he possibly could to sell Zoloft? Okay, well, here's what I want you to do. In 8 seconds, whenever you're ready, you just let me know when. You have that much time to get me to buy some new sex item.
A new sex... First of all, I got to create a new sex item.
No, you don't have to describe it.
New to you.
Yeah, new to me.
Well,
okay,
what's
gotcha.
new to you?
I don't know, whatever you want.
Not much.
What?
Boom!
Damn! Okay, you just tell me when you're ready. You got 8 seconds. We'll see how it goes.
Okay, I'm ready.
Go ahead, Ben.
There's nothing less attractive than touching a man and feeling his hairy balls or chest all over you. So buy this all-leather gimp suit with a zipper over the mouth to keep him from talking to you or making those weird noises that he makes.
That was it. Oh my God. Thank you. Thank you very much. That was good. It was hard, right?
Yeah, rush out there. Buy it.
The match burned your fingers, huh?
That's right.
Dylan, you ready?
What I would suggest to you, if your husband is always asking you, let's have a 3-way. Do something else. Buy him a fleshlight. That way, it's just you being there and no other lady.
And stop. Oh my God, Dylan, that was so good. I love Dylan's.
I'd like to go again. Can I go again?
Yeah, you can go again.
Okay. You know how well you're going to town on yourself with those dildos that the balls are affixed? How about some balls that actually slap? We got some meaty clackers on these dildos. They're an attachment that just slap into you good and hard.
Stop. Oh my God, this is my favorite thing I've ever done. I still love Dylan's.
I think I win with the fleshlight.
That was good. That was really good, Dylan.
Now let's all agree to never be creative again.
Well, Dylan, before you go, I got a game for you.
All right.
Shall we play a game?
I despise guessing games.
I have this great game. Makes you think and it helps your memory.
Let the games begin.
This game is called Drugs and Other Drugs.
Woohoo.
So I'm going to give you a prescription drug side effect, and you need to tell me if this is a real side effect you can get from taking the pill or one that I made up.
Okay, now are you going to tell me the actual drug and then the side effect? Or okay.
Nope, I'm just going to give you the side effect.
Okay.
Is this an actual side effect for an actual drug?
For any drug.
All of the side effects that you would say yes are real are in fact real to a specific drug, and all the ones that made up do not apply to any drug that is out there according to a quick Google search.
Okay.
So here we go.
Clarification.
Yeah. Okay. And away we go. Your fingernails will fall off.
No.
That is a real side effect. You'll have metallic stools.
No.
That's correct. Increased instances of deja vu.
Yes.
Correct. Ruptured tendons.
Yes.
Correct. Increased profanity use.
Yes.
Incorrect. Jock itch.
Yes.
Incorrect. Makes you shorter.
No.
Incorrect. Increased urge to gamble.
Yes.
Correct. Horn growth.
What?
Yes.
Incorrect. Spontaneous orgasms while yawning.
Oh my God.
Maybe. Yes.
Say yes, please.
Yes, it is. Your urine turns blue.
Yes.
Correct. How many to get?
6.
6 out of 11, Dylan. You win. Way to go.
Okay, you have to tell us now the orgasm one. What drug was that?
Oh, I didn't write it down.
Oh, okay.
I just saw that it was an official side effect for a drug.
Okay.
Dylan's like, I'm going to be yawning all day.
Let me tell you about this new drug that allows you spontaneous orgasm while you're yawning.
Yikes.
Oh, I'm so tired.
Y'all, this was a great time, wasn't it?
Oh, I had a really good time. Dylan, thank you so much for being on today.
Oh, thank you again. It was fun. It's always fun.
Yeah. And we'll see you again in a couple weeks. But before we go, next week we have a movie that Emily and I both have not seen. So it's not really possible for me to give Emily 3 things from this movie if I don't know anything about it. But luckily, this movie has a title that lends itself to a very interesting plot synopsis. The title of this movie is Ghost Rider.
Okay.
Ghost Rider. So please, Emily, write a plot synopsis for next week.
Like riding a horse or writing with pencils?
Ghost Writer.
Okay, got it.
Not Ghost Rider. Don't accidentally watch Nicolas Cage in Ghost Rider. That is not this movie. Yeah, it is a real movie, yeah. Actually, that might be 2007. I think we might have dodged Ghost Rider. It is 2007 movie. We did not get to Nicolas Cage as a flaming skull demon riding a motorcycle.
Yeah, I'm going to say that movie is what killed my mom's ever watching a Marvel movie ever again. I try so hard to get her to watch some of those movies, and she just won't. I blame that movie.
Oh my goodness! Wow.
Those playing along at home, that's another shot for Dylan referencing his mom. The I Drink Your Podcast drinking game.
Whenever Dylan mentions his mom, take 5 shots.
Ooh.
Emily's drunk. We love you all. Thank you so much for staying with us. You can follow us at IDYP_podcast on Twitter and Instagram, or you can email us at idrinkyourpodcast@gmail.com. We love your feedback. We definitely love doing this podcast. Please reach out to us and tell us all the things that we can do better. And Dylan,
yeah,
to wrap this up, would you please, in your most romantic and charming and enticing voice, like you're whispering to Ben before he goes to bed, can you please say, I drink your podcast, I drink it up?
Get me to orgasm while I yawn.
Hey, Ben.
Yo.
You know what I'm going to do?
What are you going to do, baby?
I am going to drink your podcast. I'm going to drink it all up, baby.
Yeah, give me that
Oh,
sound.
I hate it so much. No. We're done. Bye, everyone. Get out of here, please.
Slurp it.